Okay, good evening, Democrat. Okay, there's some new faces here, so might not know the tradition. We're gonna try it again. Let's hear everybody's voice, especially the first time. Good evening, Democrat.
Good evening.
Santa Club.
Okay, I can tell from Isabel's reaction, the microphone's working well. Can you guys hear me on Zoom?
Yes.
Okay, great. Welcome in here, out there, to our final membership meeting of the year. This club has really kept busy during what has been a tumultuous time to be a Democrat. We spent months deep diving on the future of the airport land. We hosted statewide candidates for governor and all the statewide, the state Senate contenders, including a debate and our endorsement of our own Dr. Cheyenne Roy. And we marched twice in our No Kings rallies, and last Tuesday, we won Prop 50 by a wider margin than anyone predicted. Showing that no matter what happens in Washington, we in Santa Monica are never going to bow down to authoritarianism. Okay. And we had one of our best fundraising years ever, thanks to the picnic, the magic show last month, and all of you who showed up, gave time, and gave money. So yes, it's been a stressful and depressing year. We found ways to gather, find joy, and build our community. That's what we're going to do in 2026. Whatever they throw at us next year, and they will, we're going to show up and organize and build the momentum to defeat them. By the way, now is a great time to renew your membership for 2026. Renew now, you'll be good all the way through December 31st next year. Before we dive into the program tonight, though, I just want to speak very plainly about what's happening in Washington this week, because we can't pretend that the work we do in this club in the city exists in a vacuum. And I'm just going to say it, this week, the Senate leadership abandoned us. They caved to authoritarianism and surrendered our values. And this so-called deal to end the shutdown delivered nothing for working families. It didn't even protect the Obamacare credits that we were fighting for. Millions rely on. So I personally owe it to everyone who voted for me as the president of this club and for the ADEM election to clearly state that I vehemently oppose this deal, and we achieved none of our goals policy-wise, politically, strategically, and therefore I am calling on Senator Chuck Schumer to resign from the leadership of the Senate. He has not been able to meet this moment to unite our caucus, and therefore he needs to step aside for someone new. I can't speak for the National Party, but I can speak for myself to our Democratic Club community. We are not going to fold. We are not going to normalize surrender. Thank you. And that's why the work we do in this club matters so much, because others may bow down, but we can keep organizing. We can keep holding our elected officials accountable and prove what true Democratic leadership looks like. Grounded in our values, empowered by us, the people in this club. That's what this Democratic Club is all about. And now we'll get to work for 2026. Tonight, we have quite a few exciting guests to hear from. Assemblymember Muratsuchi is running for superintendent. We have Assemblymember Mike Gipson running for Board of Equalization. Eric Strong running for LA County Sheriff. In a few minutes, we'll hear from our new city manager, Oliver Chi, who's going to present the Renaissance plan from the City Council. And later tonight, we're going to vote to support a resolution which would ask City Council and the community of Santa Monica to ban artificial turf on city-owned land, based on the presentation we heard last month. So a lot to get to. But first, we are very pleased to be joined by our first guest this evening, who is a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. The former mayor of Stockton, who gained a national profile for his support of universal basic income. Please welcome Michael Tubb. Yeah. Yep, you're good.
Well, first, good evening. Aside from the caving,
Go a little bit further.
back,
Yeah, you're good there.
I'm good to hear you. Aside from the caving on the deal that was mentioned by our president, I'm excited I'm going to release these Epstein files. So I'm like Prop 15 Epstein files. We have some momentum and we'll have work to do to make sure that Obamacare healthcare subsidies don't double and triple for far too many of us. But all things considered, we're in a better position than we were at the start of this year. We're in a better position than we were a couple months ago when ICE was kidnapping people off the streets of Los Angeles. A lot of it's because you all stood up, organized, and fought back. So I want to start by saying thank you. It's been inspiring to be in California at this time where we're illustrating what it means to fight against authoritarianism. But I submit to you, a big reason why I'm running for lieutenant governor is I think fighting Trump is the floor and not the ceiling. I submit to you that the problems that California faces actually aren't caused by MAGA or Trump. In some cases, they're exacerbated, but it's not Donald Trump's fault that California has the highest poverty rate in this country, tied with the state of Louisiana. Donald Trump didn't do that. MAGA didn't do that. California did. It's not Donald Trump's fault that the average age of home ownership for a first-time home buyer has gone up to over 40 years old in California. Donald Trump didn't do that. MAGA didn't do that. We do that in California. It's not Donald Trump's fault that public school students in California are achieving less in math and literacy than they are in Alabama and Mississippi. Donald Trump didn't do that. It's not Donald Trump's fault that in California, the folks who are leaving the state are people we call essential workers. People make between $50,000 and $100,000 a year. And they're going to the red states we say we're better than. They're going to Nevada, they're going to Texas, they're going to Florida, they're going to places where they can afford to live. So I submit to you in this moment, California, we absolutely have to defy Trump. We absolutely have to stand up against authoritarianism. But when this MAGA experiment falls, folks are going to be looking for antidotes. And the antidote or the antidote, can't just be words. It can't just be slogans. It can't just be protests. It has to be the ability for folks to live in a place and thrive and create wealth and not have to work 2 or 3 jobs and still be homeless. The antidote to MAGA can't be unaffordable. It can't be homelessness. And it can't be feelings of not safety, right? That real antidote has to be opportunity, and that's the California we can build together. And before I decided to run for lieutenant governor, I was the mayor of Stockton, California. I was elected on the same day, at 26 years old, the same day Donald Trump was elected. Stockton is a city of about 315,000 people. So for context, it's 3 times the size of South Bend, Indiana. And I was the youngest mayor ever elected in this country's history of a city of more than 100,000 people. And Stockton is very different from most places in California because my city council was 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats. So everything I did, I had to do with folks who voted for a different president. So the first basic income program in this country was done in Stockton, California. I led that as mayor. And I did that with a council with 3 Republicans and 3 Democrats with Donald Trump as president. I was the leader of a city during COVID. I was the leader of a city during the George Floyd protests. I was a leader in Stockton where we reduced homicides by 40% and shootings by 30%. Where we led the state in the decline in officer-involved shootings. We went from bankruptcy to the second most fiscally healthy city in the state. And I'm saying that because I think in this moment in particular, it's not time for like training books. It's not time to run because the thrill of fighting against MAGA seems exciting. Like what California needs is leaders who are battle tested, who are strategic, and who know how to get things done, who know how to fight, not just how to fight, but what to fight for. And I'll conclude and take questions, but really I'm fighting for a California that's worthy of my 3 children who are 6, 4, and 2. I'm fighting for a California whose promise is just as real today as it was years ago. I was talking with my grandfather this past weekend, his 80th birthday, and he talked about how he went from picking onions in the fields in Texarkana, Arkansas, moving to Stockton and became a butcher and served in the military. And he was able to buy a house and provide for my mom and my aunt and his grandkids just with a butcher's salary. and his fear that that's no longer possible in California. I was talking with a group last week, and they talked about how they were able to go to UC Berkeley or CSU Stanislaus for very little money and took on very little debt and were able to actually build wealth for themselves and their family, and how they feel that opportunity in California is closed. As the fourth largest economy in the world, I refuse to believe our best days are yesterday. But I'm also clear-eyed in that success and progress isn't inevitable. That California getting better is not just going to happen. It's going to take leadership to make that happen. And that's why I'm running for lieutenant governor, to use the same experiences, energy, and leadership skills that brought change to Stockton, started a whole national movement around giving people money, and doing the same thing as the second highest elected official in the fourth largest economy in the world. So would love to have your support, would love to have your ideas. So let's really build the California that we all deserve to live in. That's not just fighting against Trump, but fighting for a future in a government and economy that works for every single one of us. Thank you.
So, the lieutenant governor position is not just like a vice governor. There's specific roles that they have to fulfill. What's your experience to address those specific things that you'd have to do in the job?
So the lieutenant governor, that's just on my speech, thank you. The lieutenant governor sits on the UC, CSU, and Community College Board of Trustees. The only person or one of two people or three people in the state that sits on all three. What's important about those three boards in particular is that, number one, they aren't just big educators, the finest public institution of higher education in the world. They're also big employers. They're also big landowners. So when we think of the future of California, it's determined by what our students are learning at UCLA, at CSU LA, at CSU Fresno. So the job of the lieutenant governor is to make those make that opportunity really accessible. And one of the things I did in Stockton was I build enough public-private partnerships. So for the next decade, every single young person in Stockton is guaranteed a 2-year, 4-year, or trade school scholarship. With the idea being you don't have to go to college, but after high school, not only do you have to do something, but it's a real opportunity for you to do so. And since we've done that, we've seen our A through G graduation rates rise to the class we take to get into at CSU and UC. We've seen more young people see themselves as doing something after high school. And I think as lieutenant governor, a big part of the job is figuring out how to make sure we don't raise, like, I'm a no every vote from now until I'm termed out as lieutenant governor on any tuition increases for the UC, CSU, or community college system. Number two, I'm really interested in figuring out some land lease agreements, because we know that 1 out of every 8 or 9 students in California is housing insecure and hungry. Almost 10% of our young people in colleges, community college, UC, or CSU, are sleeping in cars, are couch surfing, are sleeping in living rooms with 3 or 4 people and spending $1,000 a month to do so, which is completely unacceptable. And I think the role of the governor is going to be forcing those systems to build more, not just student housing, but also workforce housing. Number two, the lieutenant governor sits on the state lands commission. I'm one of 3 people who sits on that. Number 3, the lieutenant governor is the acting governor when the governor is gone. And then number 4, and probably most exciting, equally as exciting, is that the lieutenant governor is a huge bully pulpit. And I submit to you, the majority of things I did in Stockton were not in the job description as mayor. I had no extra powers in any mayor before me. In fact, Stockton was a city manager ran city, and I had to use a lot of creativity, a lot of force, and be very annoying to all those things that I submit to you. That's why I feel prepared for this role, because I'm used to leading in very chaotic times, and also used to leading in a job that has a platform, even though everything's not spelled out what you can do with enough creativity, enough proximity and passion, you can get some really big things done.
What specific steps could you take to work on housing costs, rent affordability, for more Californians?
Yeah, well, so it's twofold. So in terms of the actual job description and role, again, the UC, CSU, community college systems sit on land. They are landowners, and they also can build by right. As a trustee, you have to work with the administration and other trustees to make sure that we're building the student housing and the workforce housing that's necessary. Number 2, this past budget cycle is probably, I'm sure it's not 100% consensus on this solution, But I do know there's 100% consensus on the problem that's unaffordable and need more housing in California. I was the expert witness on the bill for sequel reform and the bill for transit-oriented development. And I did that knowing those weren't going to be things that everyone I talked to would agree with. I did that knowing that many people who endorsed me in LA and other places were opposed to it. But I did it because I think leadership demands actually standing on business in terms of if something's a problem, if something's a crisis, then you have to be pro-solutions, even if they aren't perfect. As submitted to you in California, many of the issues we have is that we expect every policy to solve every issue or every policy to be perfect. Politics isn't perfect. Policy is never going to be perfect. The idea is how to get closer to perfection. So as Lieutenant Governor, I will be very vocal on the need to build more housing, to have more tenant protections, to build more affordable housing and workforce housing. And not because I believe in those things, but literally the data suggests it. Literally, that's the biggest issue. Every survey says the biggest stressor for Californians is housing and healthcare. The data tells us the poverty rate in California is so high because the housing costs are so high. The only way to fix that is we have to build more of it. So I've been very vocal on that before, while running for office, and now leadership will continue in office.
Great. So you mentioned the bully pulpit, that feature of LG, which is really important, and we also see the governor can do the same. When you look at what's going on nationally and how we have to be defending our democracy and how it's under threat from the federal government, in what ways do you think you would use, whether it's the bully pulpit or the official role of the job, to advocate for protecting and strengthening our democracy?
Yeah, I think the Lieutenant Governor has to do two things. Number one, the Lieutenant Governor has to define what's a political issue versus a moral issue, and get people to understand that some things we're not going to compromise on. So for me as Lieutenant Governor, number one, kidnapping people while going to work, displacing people and they're missing, people being terrorized to go to church or school, that's not a political issue. There's no negotiation on that. There's no political compromise for ICE kidnapping. I think Lieutenant Governor said that very clearly. This is a moral issue. We should be morally upset. I think number two, when we think of our children and all their identities, gay, straight, or trans, to me, there's no compromise on the humanity and dignity of all people, including our children. So I don't see throwing trans people or LGBT youth or other folks under the bus as a political, that's not a political question, that's a human rights issue, that's a moral issue. Or the ability for every person, particularly women, to choose for themselves, to make healthcare decisions for themselves, and their right to privacy. Again, that's not a political issue, that's a moral issue. I think the Lieutenant Governor has to speak those things, particularly for identities that they're not a part of, so that folks understand they're not fighting alone, and that the leadership of the state sees them. And then the Lieutenant Governor also has to be someone who talks about the issues in California. I think maybe this comes from growing up in church. I just get really upset with how hypocritical we can be in California and how we're so quick to talk about the shortcomings of other states and other places without looking at our own stuff in the mirror. So again, the fact that we, thank you, the fact that we're tied with Louisiana for the highest poverty rate in the nation, while having more billionaires than every other state in this country combined, that's unacceptable. And leaders has to call it out, so we have to do that. Or the fact that there was an audit about $24 billion that was spent on the issue of homelessness, with folks still confused as to what progress is to be on the issue. That's unacceptable. And I think the Lieutenant Governor has to be someone willing to call out the ways in which we're falling short, despite being well intentioned. And I'll conclude by saying, one of the things I learned from being mayor, because you got to get stuff done, particularly in a city that just declared bankruptcy, is that intention isn't good enough. Like you wanting something good to happen wasn't going to make something good happen. And that actually what people deserve is leadership and outcomes. So part of the job of Lieutenant Governor is also just demanding outcomes. Like we can have vibes, we can have protests, we can wear shirts, we can post things on Instagram, we can post things on our stories, we can say the right things, we can wear the kente cloth, we can wear rainbow flag, that's cool. But what are we actually going to do? Like the fact that in California, the most people who are homeless are Black folks or LGBT young people. That's unacceptable. For the state that has the biggest Juneteenth celebrations, that has the biggest Pride celebrations, like what are we doing? I think the job of the Lieutenant Governor is actually make this perform our better, do our better angels versus talk about it.
God, thanks. So, yeah, give him a round of applause. Now, who has a question, time for a couple, we'll go to Craig first.
This question is in large part motivated by the efforts of Westmore. Governor of Maryland stands toe to toe. And, you know, when SNAP benefits run out, he more or less cobbles state resources. That's not the question, no. Since its beginning, this administration has had a full frontal assault on DEI to the point with which they've arrested people who were working in plants on vehicles here. So my question is, what in the way of resources are you willing to attach to combating the rampant, you know, assault on DEI at a state level?
Well, first, appreciate the question. Secondly, I think we've already committed resources in terms of make sure our AG has all the tools he needs to sue and counter sue as to continue. As it pertains to the CSU use in community college system, it's going to take a mix of finesse and creativity to make sure we're operating within the legal frameworks of the law. But understand that California is DEI. That's the state. Our CSU system, the majority of our students in the CSU system are Hispanic. Our UC system, almost majority minority. Like we're not, it's who we're educating, it's our state. So defending DEI isn't defending some fringe group. It's defending the thing that makes California the fourth largest economy in the world. So with that being said, we have to be very, thank you. With that being said, we have to be very clear about that. And then for a bunch of issues, whether it's DEI or healthcare or other services, we're also going to have conversations about raising revenue. And how do we do it? And how do you make sure when we raise revenue, we have outcomes attached to said revenue? So not just taking money and not doing the right, not spending it in the way it needs to be spent. So I'm supportive of all those things and definitely think that it's going to be a big part of the job, particularly with the leadership of the UCCSU community college system. The kids that are being educated are diverse kids. That's what's the state of California.
Okay, Jerry. Thank you. I like everything you're saying.
Oh man, I ain't pissed you off yet. I haven't done my job. Give me a couple more minutes.
I want to put you on the spot, but is there anyone you're leaning towards that's running for governor now? And
Kamala Harris. No, I think that the governor's race is incredibly interesting. You have folks who ran federal agencies, folks who ran cities, folks who've been in Congress. And I think for me, like in the ballot booth, the person I'm gonna vote for governor is the person I think is going to like push us, because the next governor's gonna be operating in a budget deficit. And again, having been a mayor of a bankrupt city, there's not a lot of good options there. You have to piss somebody off, and often they have to be your friends. And so it depends on the magnitude of which. So I'm looking for a governor who's willing to be honest about sort of the time frame, that's going to be honest about, hey, we have to raise revenue, but we may also have to make some tough cuts, and who's not going to cut the budget just on the backs of poor people and working people. That's like a non-negotiable for me. Like I want to see more creativity in terms of how we deal with this structural deficit. And I think the next governor has to be someone who's going to insist on outcomes, like insist on California being a well-run bureaucracy. So I think in California, we have a smorgasbord of people who are good at politics, who are good at the performative nature of politics and investing, which is important. I think for the next 8 years, we need leaders who are good at that and also good at managing the bureaucracy. Also good at making sure the trains run on time or that the trains get built. Also are good at making sure that the government's delivering. So my biggest fear and why I decided to run for office again was that if California started doing things, I was worried we'd be back to Pete Wilson's California, because folks would say, look, we vote for the tax increases, we vote for the liberal politics, we vote for all these things, and nothing's moving. In fact, the problems we say are problems just get worse. So my answer just say, I'm still evaluating, but I know the person I want to vote for is someone who I believe is closest to that criteria.
Okay, next up, our council member Natalia Zernskaya.
The whole council's here. I see Councilman Cummings here, former mayor's here.
Yeah, that's really awesome crew in this room. So I'm glad you actually talked about trains, because that was gonna be one of my potential questions, but the other one, we know that as goes California, so goes the United States, for the most part. And California's been a leader in things like data privacy and opting out of websites and things tracking us. Where do you see the lieutenant governorship helping strengthen data privacy, technology protections like around AI, and just generally, how can we be the model for the rest of the country?
So I'm on the board of Common Sense Media. It's like the nation's leader in child protection privacy. And one of the things I'm supporting is the ballot initiative we're doing to no chatbots for kids, like the toughest AI privacy rules for kids in the country and in the world. And even if I was lieutenant governor, I'd still be supportive of that. But to your point, the platform, the title, the ability gives it that much more credence. And I think a big part of the job is working with others and making sure we're having conversations with folks in tech about the need to, hey, we're not trying to stifle innovation, but we saw what happened when we just let social media do what it wants. We saw what's happened to young people's brains, to depression, to suicide rates. It's so bad with the bad phones in schools now. Like everyone's like, no more phones. And we just can't let that happen again with AI, which has the potential to be much more powerful. And we've seen already anecdotes and stories of folks committing suicide, of folks getting into with the states of delusion. So the lieutenant governor has to be someone who is able to broker those conversations. And again, let people know, like, we're not hating on you building technology. We're not anti-tech. We're just anti-harm. And the job of government is to mitigate harms. And there has to be some sort of regulation. There has to be some sort of rules and guardrails. And California has to continue to lead. And that's something I've done out of office, something I'm going to do in office. Something I think is actually very important because the next 48 years will determine the next 80 years of the world we live in. And I think the biggest guiding line or principle for me is that technology has to be used in service of us and not the other way around. Like we have to be, we have to have a human-centered technology policy and understand you're not going to be able to stop everything or mitigate everything, but there's a lot that needs to be mitigated, particularly harms to young people, children, and the folks most vulnerable. And starting there, I think is a good first place.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Mayor Tubbs, for joining us. And we'll continue and we'll see you again on the campaign trail.
I'll be here.
All right. Okay, so next up, we'll be glad to be joined by our new city manager, Oliver Chi. And we have a long unbroken streak of city managers joining the club. And we're pleased to continue that tradition. And to introduce him before he comes up, hold your applause. I'm sorry, I don't like to do that. Hold your applause, because before we bring him up, we're going to hear from our former vice president of the club, Dan Hall, to tell us about why he's acting. Okay, now let's get the big applause.
Okay. Oliver, forgive me, I don't have your bio fully memorized, so I'm reading from the official one for a second. And then I want to share a little bit about why we hired him.
Let's put you back towards.
Oh, of course, sorry. Hello, everyone online. So city manager Oliver Chi joined the city of Santa Monica on July 14, 2025, after an extensive hiring process. Prior to coming here, he served as the city manager for the city of Irvine since 2021, and we were lucky enough to poach him from the city of Irvine. He has also held leadership roles in the city of Huntington Beach, Monrovia, Rosemead, and Barstow. As our city manager, he oversees a total city budget of $789.9 million and a workforce of more than 2,000 employees. He holds a master's degree in public administration from USC and a bachelor's degree in political science from UCLA. He is married to his college sweetheart, Bobby Joe, and they are proud parents of 2 children, Ian, who is 12, and Avery, who is 8, who I had the pleasure of meeting yesterday at the Veterans Day ceremony. They seem really great. So hiring Oliver, I'll say what I didn't want when I was looking for a city manager. You know, I did not want a technocrat. I did not want a policy wonk. I certainly did not want an eighth council member, which some of our city managers in years past have been accused of. What I did want was a leader. And that is what I think we got in Oliver. You know, I wanted someone who would be able to provide purpose, direction, motivation to improve the city organization, improve our community, and accomplish our mission of leading and providing services for the residents, businesses, stakeholders in this community. And I think he does that first and foremost by leading with values first. And one of the first things he did as city manager was establish a culture that he's calling the One Samo values. And those four values are humility, integrity, motivation, and care. And I think that really speaks to the executive team that he is developing and shaping. It speaks to the way he leads, and it speaks to the vision that he and us on council are trying to bring to City Hall and get stuff done for our community. And tonight he's here to share a little bit about the realignment plan that we just passed at council. Now, the realignment plan is not anything particularly groundbreaking, frankly. These are initiatives and policy issues that this club, our councils past have worked on and have asked for years. They are things that this club has endorsed, like a rental registry, like making it easier for small businesses, like taking care of vacant properties that become nuisances. It's about getting our cops out of patrol vehicles and out on foot patrols, bike patrols, especially in our neighborhoods. It's about fulfilling our partnership to our schools to make sure our teachers are available for our kids. It's about keeping our parks, keeping our downtown, keeping our beaches clean, and really it's about bringing the fun back to Santa Monica. You know, I think for the first time in a long time since pre-COVID, we have a council, a city manager's office, a city attorney's office, and a city staff that are all rowing in the same direction. And that is why I have the utmost confidence that this realignment plan is actually going to bring results. And like our candidate for lieutenant governor just said, now it's time that we are going to be holding you accountable to the output. And we hope that the community holds all of us accountable to that output as well. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our friend, Oliver Cheaton.
Dan is much too kind. I think I'm supposed to stand right here. Hello, everybody. It's such a privilege to join everyone here tonight. My name's Oliver. I've the privilege the last couple of months of being part of this spectacular community. Santa Monica is a place I've wanted to be part of for decades. My connection to Santa Monica, I met my current wife, girlfriend then at UCLA. As poor starving college students, we were trying to figure out what we were going to do in life and how we wanted to approach life together. And we sort of found our way walking up and down the promenade, spending time on the pier. This was such an important part of my life, being here in Santa Monica. And as I fell into working for cities and local government, Santa Monica has always been that place where anything is possible. It's the city that, from a local government perspective, always was doing things that really became models and standards that everyone else would chase. And when you work in a profession, you want to work in those places that do the absolute coolest things. And to me, that was always Santa Monica. So I had the opportunity to join the city here a couple months ago. It's just been a spectacular privilege. John was kind enough to allow me to come share some details related to what we've been working on at the city. And it really is a moment that we're trying to address at City Hall, where if you start somewhere new. For me, the last couple of months, you start out listening and observing, talking with folks, getting a sense of what's working, what do we need to improve on. And over time, those observations start becoming opinions about what's happening. And as we've been developing a plan to respond to the council's objectives of how do we bring Santa Monica back? The observation that I've had is, the last 5 to 7 years, it feels like the city, but the city organization and our community at large, feels like we've been punched in the face, we've been on the ground, we've been trying to figure out what are we going to do now at this moment moving forward. All you have to do is look around, right, at the issues from 30,000 feet here in the city. There's this economic malaise in town. 35% of our offices are vacant. Almost 17% of our commercial storefronts are vacant. Both of those are among the highest in LA County. Man, that's a crisis in some respects. The city isn't seeing the same type of economic output from a sales tax or TOT perspective. Some of the issues we've been dealing with really have depleted the city's financial reserves. As you know, back in 2018, we had $436 million in free cash. And today, the city only has $98 million that's unobligated in an environment where TOT and sales tax is decreasing. And when you zoom out, the only area where things seem to be working okay, multifamily in town, we have a very low occupancy rate and our rents are astronomical here in the city. We've only got about a 5% vacancy rate on the multifamily front. Average rents in town are pushing $4 to $5 grand a month. Still a place people want to be, but there's less vibrancy. And when you zoom out again, one of the things I observed, some of what's causing all of those problems appears to be this overarching sense of disorder. That there's too many things happening where it creates the sense that when you walk around, this doesn't feel like a vibrant place anymore. And man, when you zoom out again, this is Santa Monica. It is absolutely one of the coolest places on the planet. We shouldn't be in that spot. We just absolutely shouldn't be. And so ultimately, what we've been doing at the staff level is trying to respond to what the council's been indicating are our priorities. Make everything in Santa Monica safe and clean, promote economic growth, focus on housing. And the pathway to doing that we've been working through at the city, something very important, we've got to get healthy as an organization in order to be able to execute. Dan was too kind in the introduction for me. Outside of this one thing, I do want to emphasize being able to deliver results. I hope everyone in this room holds us accountable because we've been spending a ton of time making sure that we're not just talking about the things that we need to do, we're getting healthier and creating more cohesion internally in the city so that we can actually execute the plan. This realignment plan, what's involved in it? It really is building on, again, the council's priorities of safe and clean, economic growth, and really finding a way moving forward to integrate housing. And they're all interrelated, right? When you think about the things we need to do. The plan really starts with, if we want to spur economic growth in town, if we want to see the promenade refilled with stores, if we want to see Santa Monica Place Mall really becoming more vibrant, if we want Santa Monica to be that tourist destination, both for international tourists, but I think we need to narrow our focus, a local regional tourist destination, we have to change the sense that there's an overwhelming amount of disorder, that it's not safe in town, that we can take care of our stuff again. I think it's kind of symbolic. Right in front of City Hall, we have a fountain, and the fountain hasn't worked for years. It's a beautiful fountain. Why is our stuff not working? It's reflective, I think, of what we need to do in the city. So our plan starts with, let's go and realign our resources to address the issues that are most pressing in town from a public safety perspective. Where is that? Do you know that 36% of all of our crime calls for service occur in the downtown core, Ocean to Lincoln? 50% of all our calls for service for homeless related issues, Ocean to Lincoln. We need to realign our public safety resources and deploy in that particular part of town to address the issue. That's what we're doing. That's a key part of the plan starting out, making sure that we're thinking about how we bolster both our sworn and non-sworn staff, through a new substation we're going to open in the downtown. And what we're going to see in the community here in the coming weeks, we're finishing out with the council's recent approval, a bunch of different hiring processes and scheduling shifts. We're going to realign our downtown services unit to start. It's a specialized unit that's going to patrol the downtown core. Currently averages about 4 officers on duty per day. That's going to shift to 8 to 10 officers a day. And to the point Dan made, we are going to engage bike patrols, foot patrols. We're going to deploy out of that new substation off of Broadway and 3rd, right in Santa Monica Place Mall. We're going to supplement that by shifting some of our patrol operations where there's an additional 5 officers a day that will provide supplemental support in our most visible areas. We're also looking to bolster our help team, which is our homeless outreach liaison team, so that we're out in coordination with our public safety patrols to provide the support that folks do need. We're going to add non-sworn staff. We have this classification called the public service officer. We currently have about 30 that we deploy across the city, but only about 8 in the downtown core. We're doubling that by adding 8 additional new public safety officers into the downtown core. What folks will see once we finish shifting this deployment plan is a bigger presence all across the downtown. You're going to see consistent presence in our parks that are most impacted, Tongva, Palisades, Reed Park. You're going to see foot and bike patrols all across the downtown and on the promenade. We're going to reinvest and make sure we have folks that are staffed and stationed in our downtown parking structures. All of those are things that we need to do to create a sense of greater order. And we need to start taking care of our stuff. So the plan also involves a $4 million immediate investment into enhancements on the capital front in the downtown core and in our key commercial areas along Main Street in Montana. That plan will include the simple things we need to do: get our fountains working again, take care of the crosswalks. We haven't painted those in forever. We have a bunch of tree wells downtown, almost 30 that are vacant. Let's plant new trees. We haven't trimmed our trees consistently in the last 5 years. Let's go and trim the trees that we need to. We got beautiful urban canopy. That work's happening. We need to take care of busted sidewalk. We have 20,000 square feet of busted sidewalks downtown. We haven't repaired or replaced. Let's do that. Remove old signage, fix pavers along the promenade, take care of the things that are ours. That's part of the plan that's rolling out as we speak right now. 30,000 feet, if we can make things safe and clean. The other component that we think is going to be important is how do we create a sense that you can do fun things in Santa Monica? How can we activate things at scale? And so we're working through a plan we're going to bring to council on the activation front. The details of the plan are going to really build on some of these international events that are coming to our region the next couple of years, where we're going to start as a city creating intentional activation in the downtown. Every month, gosh, there has to be something cool to do in the downtown that everyone in this room, residents in Santa Monica, the broader region, might want to come and participate in. How do we create that environment? If we can make it safe and clean, how do we activate? So starting in February is when we want to launch that particular program. As it moves forward, we have the World Cup coming in June and July. Let's create some kind of really cool, unofficial viewing location here in town. We've got some great ideas we're going to share with the council on that. We're moving forward now with the large-scale music festival on the beach in the late summer, early fall of 26. That's going to be, we think, spectacularly cool. All of that moves into 2027 when the Super Bowl is going to be in town. It'll be an interesting Super Bowl in that it's the first Super Bowl ESPN will be broadcasting. Maybe there's something really impressive we can do around that. All leading up to, in 2028, the Olympics. And even though we don't have an event here in town, can we really get the shine back up in Santa Monica? Can we pick ourselves back up so that when the world comes in 2028, we are going to have a bunch of cool activations related to countries, building hospitality homes here in the city. Can we be the center of that particular environment as the Olympics come to our region in an environment that we can all be proud of? That's what we're working towards the next couple of years. And embedded in the plan are strategies to make sure we can also get our budget balanced in the next 24 months and work through a plan to make sure we're partnered with the school district and the way that we've historically engaged. All of those things are embedded into, really this program to really create a realignment in how the city engages in the city. A couple of our council members have been describing it as, if we execute, that will create the renaissance that we need to help Santa Monica pick itself back up as we move forward into the future, so we can get back to being Santa Monica, the coolest place on the west side, the coolest place on the planet. All of that's possible. We believe it. We hope you'll hold us accountable. The next couple of months, there's going to be a lot more communications efforts around sharing some of the things that we're doing on all of the different fronts that are associated with the program. There's a lot of other details, but given all of the things going on today, we were going to initially keep it high level and provide an opportunity for questions. Really, this is a plan that responds to what our current council has identified for months as needing to get done. Create an environment where it's safe, where it's clean, so that we can spur economic growth, create an environment that people want to encourage development of housing so that we can get costs down. How do we roll that all into one comprehensive plan? That's what we've been working on. It's what the council recently approved. That's what we're looking forward to executing here the next couple of months moving ahead. With that, John, I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks so much, Oliver. So now we'll take some questions and we'll start with folks that haven't already asked Jerry. Sorry. I'll go to Brooke first. Come back around.
Thanks so much sorry. Thank you for what you do. This may or may not be relevant, so please take it with a grain of salt, but I'm curious. I was a Santa Monica resident for 7 years and I'm a teacher, and I was displaced a couple of years ago. And when I was trying to stay in Santa Monica, looking for places, there were plenty of empty units, but they were priced so high on a teacher's salary, there was no way to get an apartment. And what I didn't understand was, everyone who says we need to build more housing in Santa Monica, there were tons of empty units, but they were affordable. I don't know if that's the case now. It's displaced 3 years ago, so that's why I mean take it with a grain of salt. I don't want to be inaccurate with the question, but I just wondered if you have any thoughts on that or insight.
No, for sure. It's absolutely an issue, housing affordability, that locally, there's macroeconomic forces at work that make it challenging for the city to directly influence that particular issue. But there are things we can do locally. One is, how do we think about a development and use of city property in an effort to create the type of housing we want at the income levels that we want? And so part of the plan really relates to this effort of focus some of the development efforts the city has intentionally. A lot of the development that happens really is private sector investing. The intentional efforts of the city can be focused on key pieces of property that we own that are going to be matured into a strategic development plan that addresses the city's needs, which really are mission, how do we create more affordability, and how do we utilize the land that we own to help reinvigorate the city's finances. So that is part of the program. There's some other interesting plans that we've been thinking through internally of how do we expand the ability of using city-owned land to control the types of rents that are being charged on the development that happens on city-owned property. So all of that feels like a really important thing to mature and is part of our realignment plan, focusing our efforts on city developed properties, some of which will get sold and developed at market rate, some of which is going to advance mission through really intentional strategies that we develop so that we do have workforce housing, and that a teacher can stay in town, that our police officers can stay in town. That type of effort's underway.
Okay, I'm not saying that we have a plan, but the mayor pro tem has a question.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is all really helpful and great. I just want you to reaffirm for everyone what you're planning on doing about the libraries, because I don't think you mentioned that. And secondly, related to your question, you know that 70% of Santa Monicans are renters. Majority of people in this room are probably renters. You haven't talked at all about how the plan potentially helps our renters.
Mm-hmm. For sure. There's a lot of details in the plan, but let's start with one of the new programmatic things that we are doing. All of our branch libraries we're aiming to reopen by January of 26, and a hiring process. It really fits under when times are hard right now. Gosh, there is stress in the local economy. Libraries serve as a terrific outlet to provide opportunity, but it's also such an important community resource. So starting in January, all of our branch libraries will be reopened for service at least 3 days a week. As we move into July of 26, the next fiscal year, we'll be reopening all our branch libraries 4 days a week. Important element of the plan to get some of the things that we have to do, take care of our stuff. Let's reinvest in the city back up and running. From a rent protection perspective, I remember during the interview, this is such an important element for Carolyn and also all of our council. There are multiple elements included in the plan to address renter protection related issues. One really is we have a new vacant property registration ordinance that the council adopted as part of the plan. That really is going to give us additional resources to require anyone with vacant or underperforming property. You got to register in the city, and we're going to pay attention now. That's going to be an important issue and element to move forward on. There's also a rent registry program the council authorized. Right now, we have roughly 23,000 rent controlled units in town. Rent control board takes care of that. Thank you, Anastasia. We have 17,000 or so non-rent controlled units. How can we get more details along what's happening on that front? All of that is part of the program. There's some other elements in the plan related to increased code enforcement staffing so that habitability issues can get addressed more quickly. And then the one thing we're working on internally, a couple of years ago, we split up a larger department into a recreation and arts department and health and human services. HHS, that department is tasked with deploying Measure GS funds for rent protection related and tenant protection, eviction prevention related programming. It's been almost 3 years since Measure GS was approved. We need to get the internal processes streamlined so we can start getting and deploying those resources into the community. All that's part of the overarching plan we've developed.
Okay, former Mayor Ted Winter.
Alva, maybe you could elaborate a bit on what you intend to do to support small businesses in terms of regulatory relief, different policy changes, as an example, some of the prescriptions for reducing the costs for sidewalk dining, outdoor dining, that sort of stuff, and improvements, streamlining.
No, it's a great point, Ted. Thank you. One element of the plan is how do we get the private government can do a lot, but you've got to encourage the private sector to reinvest and create an environment where the private sector has a reason to invest. One of the industries that's been really hit hard in our region is restaurants. And one of the things that makes Santa Monica so cool, we've got such a vibrant restaurant scene here in town that we want to support. One of the impediments, though, to creating additional capacity for our local restaurants has been sidewalk dining, parklet dining. The program that we had previously required a massive upfront capital investment. $1,400 per seat is what we charge in order to start a sidewalk dining program. So you think about that coupled with there was an ongoing rent payment that folks would have to make to the city that ranged up to $4 per square foot that you'd have to pay for putting out a sidewalk dining or parklet dining operation. The new plan really results in a shift in philosophy that this current council has been advocating for. How do we encourage more sidewalk, parklet, outdoor dining? And the plan really is we're going to eliminate the capital investment. The $1,400 per seat fee is gone. We've reduced the payment, the annual licensing agreement payment for use of the sidewalk or parklets to it's $1 a square foot if you're on the sidewalk. It's $2 a square foot if you're on the street in a parklet. We're also streamlining the regulatory approval structure to make sure that's happening. The other point that's really important in this plan, if you ask anyone in the region, our permitting processes in Santa Monica, which were really developed in boom times when we had this overabundance of everyone wanted to be here, so you had to create systems to address that. We're not in that moment anymore. We've got to get folks in and out of permitting more quickly to get to a building permit, to get to opening a new operation, a new store. The new plan really plants our flag on if it's a non-structural permit that you're looking for, we will turn plans around within 3 weeks. Every time you turn it around, you can guarantee you're going to get plans turned around in 3 weeks and get you open. That's ultimately the end result, make sure it's safe, but how do we help folks get open? That's all gonna support both our small and really our entire business community moving ahead.
Okay, and next up we have on Zoom, a question from former Mayor Nat Travis.
I wanted to say welcome to Santa Monica. I've been following you. Uh, I teach a class in current events at Santa Monica College, and they've been calling your office to try to get you to speak to the class. It's for emeritus. We have PhDs to lawyers. We have everybody in the class, and we need you. So we want you to do that. Now, to the chairman of this group, nobody is recognizing the questions that come up on Zoom. I've been seeing questions that are great,
Okay.
and I'll lead one of them myself because
Yeah.
and I'll shut up. I have had wonderful experiences in the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. I think that's a landmark, and I don't know why. I don't know why the city allowed that auditorium to be sitting there dormant for all these years because of its record alone. And when you talk about 2028 and the world this and the world that, everybody needs to come. That place needs to be open, and I will shut up because the clock is spinning. Thank you. Thank you. I love that smile. If I weren't homebound, I'd be in your office, but I've been locked in the house for 6 years. Thank
Here you go.
Thank you.
Good trick here, just take this.
Thank you. Thank you for that's loud. Thank you for the question, and I will check with our team and make sure we get over to that class and make sure we spend some time with the students. To the point on the civic, we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community on the civic. I think there's some folks in the community maybe don't quite understand what the council has done. Council has directed that we identify a way to utilize that particular property in a way that can get that particular location of town revitalized. What are the pathways? What are the options to doing that? The decision that we made was to really end an exclusive discussion with only one potential user. We're still in discussions with that user though. And we're in discussions with other users at this point to figure out what the options are. We hope to bring all that back to council here in the first half of 2026 for additional discussions.
Thank you, sir.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, let's give it up for our city manager.
Okay, so before we hear from our next guest, we're going to have a few quick programming announcements from our programs VP, Michelle Grant.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. It's great to see everyone. First, I want to thank Albie Selznick, who is on the Zoom. We had a great magic show fundraiser. It was sold out. I believe everybody had a good time. Yes? Yes, and we'll do it again next year. So these are the things that are coming up that we hope to see you at. First of all, we will be volunteering at the Santa Monica College, food for students for Thanksgiving. This QR code takes you to all the available times and dates to volunteer, but Susan and I and some other people from the club are going on Tuesday night, November 25th from 5 to 8 p.m. We hope some of you will be able to join us. So this will be over at the information table. Also coming up next is our holiday party and toy drive. Toy drive, bring lots of toys. It's going to be back at Santa Monica Brew Works from 6 to 9 p.m. on Sunday, December 7th. You will get an email with all the details, but I hope to see everyone there. And last, the Sammys are back. So save the date, March 1st. More information when I see you in January. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle. Totally know this year.
Okay. Our next guest is an assembly member from the South Bay who flipped a Republican seat Democrat back before it was cool in 2012. And now we're pleased to welcome Assembly Member Muratsuchi, who's running for state superintendent. Right here in the middle of the Zoom screen.
Okay, thank you very much, John, and good evening, Democrats. My name is Muratsuchi, and I'm ready to be your next state superintendent of public instruction. I bring my passion for public education, first from my personal background. I'm a son of immigrants, product of public schools, and a first-generation college graduate. And I know that I wouldn't have been able to do all the things that I've done in my life, but for great public education opportunities. I've continued my passion for public education. I just drove over here where I teach government at El Camino College in Torrance, our local community college of the South Bay. And I also served on my local school board, also in Torrance for 7 years, including serving as president. I currently serve in the California legislature with my good friend, Mike Gipson. And I chair the Assembly Education Committee, where we make statewide policies. Education policies impact California's nearly 6 million public school students and about 1,000 school districts throughout the state of California. We know right now that public education is under attack by Donald Trump. And first of all, thank all of you for all of your work in passing Proposition 50. We know that we need to fight back, and especially in the area of public education, with Donald Trump dismantling the United States Department of Education, attacking our most vulnerable students, whether we're talking about our special education students, our immigrant students, or LGBTQ students. Our next state superintendent needs to lead the fight, not only for public education, but to fight for our schools and for our students. This year, I was proud that just a few weeks ago, Governor Newsom came down to Los Angeles Unified to sign one of my top priority bills, the California Safe Haven Schools Act, to keep ICE out of our schools. Last year, when MAGA was across the country engaging in book banning campaigns, I worked with our librarians as well as the ACLU to pass the California Freedom to Read Act to fight censorship and book banning. I've also been fighting, this is my multi-year effort, but I'm fighting to pay our teachers more, because we know that survey after survey shows, as I was talking with Brooke, that number one reason why we're not getting more young, talented people to want to become teachers is because they can't afford to live in the communities that they teach in. And so I have the Fair Pay for Educators Act that is not only proposing to fully fund California public schools across the state, but to increase teacher pay as well as classified school employees, because there's a shortage of custodians and cafeteria workers and the people that run our schools and protect our kids, to increase their pay by 50% over the next 10 years. Last but not least, I was the lead author last year of Proposition 2, the statewide $10 billion school bond, so that we have the funds necessary, provide matching dollars to local school districts to fix and upgrade our schools. I'm proud that this year I was named the California Legislator of the Year by the California Federation of Teachers. I have a 100% ranking from the California Labor Federation, Planned Parenthood, Equality California, and the Enviro Voters. I hope I can earn your support when we convene in San Francisco this upcoming February for our California Democratic Party endorsement process. And I thank you, John, for giving me this opportunity. I don't know if we'll have an opportunity to take a few questions.
Yeah, we're down to one microphone, so I'll share this one, but we'll just start. You talked about what's going on at the national level, the Department of Education under Linda McMahon being decimated. So
That's right.
Can you talk a little bit about what the federal Department of Education does and how that would intersect with the department that you'd be inheriting, and what the deficits are there that you're going to have because of what they're doing?
Yes. Yeah. So thank you. So the U.S. Department of Education, one of their biggest jobs is to ensure that that every student has the equal educational opportunities that are supposed to be provided to all kids, regardless of background, regardless of zip code, regardless of ability. That the Office of Civil Rights within the United States Department of Education is being dismantled. That is, you know, they are the lead agency for, especially for families that don't have the money to be able to hire lawyers, to be able to advocate for their kids, to ensure that they have equal educational opportunities in our public schools, equal educational access, the programs, the support services that kids, especially with special needs, have. Those programs are being dismantled. Now, we also, you know, saw earlier in the year that you know, critical programs like Head Start, you know, have been defunded. The funding has been restored at this point, but you know, the future of programs like Head Start remain uncertain. We know that the research, you know, research clearly shows that investment in early childhood education has the biggest return on the investment. You know, when we see the opportunity gaps and the achievement gaps, you know, in different racial and ethnic communities, we know that all starts from the 0 to 5 years. You know, because when kids in the affluent neighborhoods, you know, I know when I was my wife and I were raising our daughter, we're trying to send our kids to enrichment school, enrichment programs, you know, music programs, art programs. Well, you know, those opportunities, they don't exist enough in our low income and disadvantaged communities. We need to make sure that we continue to fight for programs like Head Start so that, you know, we fulfill that promise of public education to provide equal educational opportunity for all.
So we know that in the past 5 years, the sort of mental health space has changed so much in schools after the pandemic and people doing remote learning and then being back to in-person instruction. How is that changing? How is that affecting people's experience in obtaining an education? And what do we need to do to meet people where they are in this different time?
Yeah. So mental health, you know, especially, I mean, I'm a parent. My daughter is a junior in high school now. She was a 6th grader during the pandemic. And, you know, I'll never forget when my heart broke when I saw my daughter, you know, at home during the peak of the pandemic, where she was in front of her laptop, participating in class virtually, where it was her PE class, and she was doing jumping jacks by herself in her bedroom in front of a laptop. You know, I mean, you know, we can laugh about it now, but as a parent, it was heartbreaking. And I, you know, we know that COVID, as well as, you know, things that preceded COVID, like social media, like, you know, cell phones, excessive screen time. You know, those have all contributed to what the Surgeon General recognized a few years ago as a teenage mental health crisis. And so the state of California, you know, world's 4th largest economy, we made historic investments, over $4 billion in youth mental health programs. You know, there are some school districts, like I think LA Unified at one point, they had more money than they could find mental health counselors to be able to hire to help support our kids. We've made those historic investments, but still, you know, these long-term challenges for our kids, our youth continue. You know, I introduced the first bill in the state of California. I was ahead of Jonathan Haidt in the anxious generation. You know, I introduced the first bill in California to ban or restrict cell phones on school grounds during school hours, because, you know, there's growing evidence. There's growing evidence that excessive, again, smartphone use, excessive social media is having a devastating impact on our teenagers and our mental health. And so, I want to make sure that we continue to fund mental health services as well as to address some of these long-term challenges facing our youth.
So what's your view on the growing influence of the charter school system in our community and how that's affecting instruction and the access equity issues that come from that?
Thank you. Yeah, so I know that, as chair of the education committee, we're very mindful of the fact that we're making policies that impact, thousands of school districts from the Oregon border down to the Mexico border. Tremendous diversity. There are many districts that have a growing number of charter schools that are threatening the financial stability of the school districts and their ability to be able to keep their traditional schools running. I believe that if a school district is doing a good job of providing a good education through traditional public schools, that there really isn't a need for charter schools to arise. We see, the charter schools increasing in numbers, especially in communities where the traditional public schools have been failing. And so, my number one goal is to support and strengthen our traditional public schools so that we don't need charter schools. We don't need to privatize public education, and provide excellent public neighborhood schools in every community. Also, this year, one of my top priorities that is going to continue into next year is a bill to crack down on charter school fraud and corruption. We've seen in many school districts from San Diego to Sacramento of charters that have been operating to enrich the charter school operators. In San Diego, for example, they were falsifying enrollment records, taking kids' names from Little League rosters, claiming that they were enrolled in their charter schools, and then collecting hundreds of millions of dollars in taxpayer dollars that were intended for public education. We need to crack down on that kind of fraud and corruption, and support our traditional public schools.
Okay, let's see if there's any questions from the crowd, and I'll come to you, Mitchell, first. On the Zoom, since Nat said something before, if you have a question, you can raise your digital hand so we can see it here, because it's kind of hard to see all the squares. Let's go over to Mitchell.
Yeah, appreciate your efforts, reading, writing, and arithmetic. What about, I'd like to see more vocational training.
Yeah.
I think there's really a lack of it right now. So I'd like to see you try to incorporate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, actually, I've been a long-time champion for career technical education. I sat on the board of directors for the Southern California Regional Occupation Center in Torrance, which recognizes that not every kid wants to or should be going to college. There are great jobs that people can support a family and pursue a rewarding career that doesn't require a college education. One of the programs was training welders and sheet metal workers that were trained by engineers from Northrop Grumman, so that they were filling those jobs. There's such a high demand in my neck of the woods on the other side of the LA airport in the South Bay, with many of the world's leading aerospace manufacturers for people like welders and sheet metal workers. And so, I want to continue. I know when I go to the rural parts of the state of California, they say similar things, that they don't necessarily need more college graduates. They want more people that are trained in the agricultural professions and many of the vocational educational programs that they have to help fulfill their local workforce needs. And so vocational education, career technical education has been and will continue to be one of my top priorities. Thank you.
Okay, next up we have our newest SMC trustee,
Okay.
Luis Casino.
All right.
I have my branded sweater here, by the way, and all the other trustees here. Actually, you can ask over here, sharing these others.
Okay.
But my question is actually just expanding on what was shared earlier. The American Student Assistance did a national survey in July of high schoolers, particularly seniors. And what they saw, their key finding was that 45% of those students saw college as that option for them. The majority, 55% of them, did not, right? They want to go into applied careers and not just sheet metal work or welding and that. They want to go into computer science, vibe coding, digital marketing, all those things that are possible with AI. But those programs are also the most expensive programs to create. So what's your plan, or what's your thoughts, on sort of that statistic? But then how can the Office of Public Instruction really play a role in that? And then how does that then connect back to community colleges that do have those workforce development programs? Because we know, at least locally, that it's very difficult for us to partner with school districts that are outside of our region, right? It's really difficult for us to partner in that way. So how do we really create a regional approach that tackles workforce development that way?
All right. So I've been in the legislature for 11 years now. And so I believe it was in 2014, we adopted a statewide regional approach to provide career technical education to meet regional workforce needs, with the community colleges as the centers of these regional hubs to try to coordinate many of these workforce development programs, with the community colleges as the center. In terms of the resources, as you know, as a trustee, I mean, thank God for Proposition 98 that reserves, at least 40% of every budget year's revenues to go to K through 14 education, which includes our community colleges. So, the big challenge in terms of our ongoing workforce educational programs are not just to make sure that that Proposition 98 is well funded. Next year, one of the top priority propositions that's going to be on the November ballot is going to be the extension of the wealth tax that started with Proposition 30 and was extended with Proposition 55. But we need to extend that. We need to make sure that that the top 1% of the state of California is paying their fair share to invest in our kids, invest in our future workforce. But beyond that, making sure that we provide stable, ongoing funding for our University of California and our California State University is also a big challenge, especially when the federal government is slashing, millions of dollars in critical research funding for our universities. We know that California is the innovation state because of so much of the funding that goes to our universities. And so I just want to throw that in, absolutely we need to focus on K-12, on community college in terms of making sure that it continues to be adequately funded. But we also want to make sure that we keep in mind our University of California and our California State Universities.
Okay, thanks. Now we'll go to our own legislative VP, Isabel Story.
Hi, thank you. Nice to meet you. So I'm actually just want to get up and thank you, because we endorsed that bill that you mentioned, the Safe Haven Schools Act on the recognize Lynn Servini, who
Thank you.
championed the bill. So when we endorse something, we, really advocate. So we wrote letters to every committee that considered that, and the governor asking him to sign.
Thank you.
We're very glad to see it. We've seen those ice raids and problems. And one of our teachers here was just telling me, I didn't realize this at LAUSD, that some of the schools have closed because so many students are afraid to go to school still.
Yeah.
And it's really a problem. So with a law like this, hopefully they can start to feel safer that ICE cannot come onto the campus. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Comment on that or?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I just want to thank you to the Santa Monica Democratic Club for your support for that and for supporting our immigrant kids. As Brooke knows, we've seen a significant drop in attendance, especially in the communities that have the largest populations of immigrant students, of undocumented students, or I know in many of our Latino, U.S. citizens. I mean, they feel vulnerable. And during the debate on the bill, there were a number of Latino legislators that stood up and talked about how, they feel, vulnerable for themselves or for their family members. And so we know that when there's, this racialized, profiling, in these immigration enforcement activities, it's had Donald Trump has clearly been weaponizing the fear to in this case target our immigrant communities. While this bill, our goal is to send a strong, clear message to all of our immigrant students that at the very least schools should be safe havens for them. But we know that so much of the campaign of fear extends beyond the school campuses, and that's where things like Proposition 50 and of course next year's midterm elections are going to be critical in our ongoing efforts to fight back. So thank you.
Thanks so much. So I'm really glad to have you here and looking forward to seeing the campaign play out.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next up we have another South Bay Assembly member. We have them back to back here. This one is running for the Board of Equalization to succeed our very own Tony Vasquez. Let's please welcome Assembly Member Mike Gipson.
Thank you very much, John, and thank you very much, Sean, for extending the invitation for me to come out. Where do I need to stand? You're good. I'm good here. Right there. Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you very much. Good evening to each and every one of you for staying and also for being good Democrats. My mother always said, baby, if anybody does anything, simply say thank you, not only for coming and staying out this evening, but thank you for being Democrats, for supporting Proposition 50. So I want to say, give yourselves a round of applause. We appreciate each and every one of you for bringing us to victory and for also setting the tone for the rest of the United States of America. Certainly, I sent my text message to the governor. On election night, I was up in Kaiser Hospital. Because when I just made it back into town and I was feeling ill and was in emergency room and not knowing what was going on. And the doctor said that my appendix was about to erupt. And while I was in the hospital emergency room, it erupted and they performed emergency surgery on me. And so I was, going through, and today is the very first day after 2 weeks of following the doctor's orders that I'm out. So I'm fine. And so I'm happy to be here. Al, it's good to see you. And to all the elected officials, thank you very much for all that you do, for being a great public servant in Santa Monica. And to all of you for just being great citizens. First of all, I want to bring you greetings on behalf of the residents of the 65th California State Assembly District. That's the proud district that I represent. That district represents Watts, Willowbrook, where I was born and raised. It represents Compton, Carson, North Long Beach, Harbor Gateway, North and South, Harbor City, Wilmington, and also San Pedro. It makes up about 500,000 people. It represents 80 elementary schools. It represents 15 high schools, 15 middle schools, 7 span schools. It represents 2 universities and also 2 community colleges. And I'm happy to represent the 65th California State Assembly District. I live there, I walk that community, and I'm happy to represent the residents of that particular district. And so I'm running for the California State Assembly District. But before I go and talk about why I'm running for that seat, I think you need to know who I am first. I grew up in Watts. My mother and my father only had a high school education. They eloped to California from Texas, and both of them only had a high school education. My daddy wanted to leave Texas to have a better life, not only for my mother, but also to raise a family. So they came here to California. My daddy only had 2 jobs in his entire life. One was a Pacific Railroad. And then someone told him about a job working as a truck driver. And so he left the Pacific Railroad to follow a dream to become a truck driver. And he stayed on that job for 47 years. 47 years as a truck driver. And that company had no collective bargaining agreement. He worked there for 10 years. 10 years with no collective bargaining agreement. No health care coverage, no benefits. And then he said there had to be something better. And so he took all the men out on strike. But there was no collective bargaining agreement. But he knew it was something better. 19 days, what we saw was our electricity and an eviction notice. And someone from United Steelworkers of America heard about a strike that was not sanctioned, but they went to the rescue. And they joined my father on a picket line. And then on the 20th day, they had a union contract. And that union contract is in effect today. Even though my father is deceased now, and my mother's deceased now, but that union contract is still standing today. And I have to share that with you because it laid the foundation for not only for my family, but for me and my 3 sisters. And each and every one of my sisters and myself, we have college education and laid the foundation for us to matriculate in life. And so because of that, we were able to go to college. Because of that, we had health care, we had a roof over our head, and we were able to have a piece of the American dream today. And so for my trajectory, I spent 21 years in the labor movement. I worked for SEIU, SEIU 399, which was the healthcare workers union fighting for nurses in the healthcare space, and also the janitors. I led the janitors under Mike Garcia, fighting for dignity and respect for janitors in the state of California. And then from there, I worked for United Teachers Los Angeles for 12 years for collective bargaining for classroom teachers, making sure that the priority became for teachers in the classroom to educate our public school teachers and for our students in the classroom. And then I left there. And then I joined and worked for the California State Board of Equalization. I spent 6 years for the California State Board of Equalization before I was elected in 2014. So let me tell you, I'm not running for a position just to keep a job. I'm going to a position that I know what I'm doing because I served there as the district director, and then I matriculated to become the chief of staff for Jerome Horton, who recruited Tony Vasquez, the former mayor of Santa Monica, because in 2017, he wanted me to run for the seat, and I said no. And he said, well, you're going to find somebody to run for my seat. And I said, who am I going to get? And I said, you need to find someone. And he had a close relationship with Tony Vasquez. And he recruited Tony Vasquez from Santa Monica. And the rest is history. Tony Vasquez is now turned out, and he's running for treasurer of the state of California. and Tony Vasquez has endorsed me to succeed him. And so from there, I'm running. I'm termed out. I've spent 11 years in the California State Legislature. I became the Democratic Caucus Chair under former Speaker Anthony Rendon, where we had a majority in the California State Assembly. And when I became the Democratic Caucus Chair, we turned red seats into purple seats. We raised over $35 million in order to do that. And we became a super majority in the California State Assembly, flipping seats from red seats to purple seats. And today we still have a super majority in the Assembly in order to making sure that we have a Democratic stronghold in the state of California. And I'm proud that we've done that kind of work. And we will continue to do that kind of work because California leads the nation. I heard someone say, if California goes, there goes the nation. And understand this, that people are watching what California does. And I'm glad they're doing that because we have a lot to show and lead in this country. When you look at what's going on, my colleagues have said it time and time again, it is a travesty when you see people walking down the streets being kidnapped by masked men. What have this country become? Where people are hiding in the shadows? Black people used to be kidnapped off the streets. Now we're seeing Latino people being kidnapped just because of the color of their skin. I have walked and I have partnered with Sheila, where they have partnered with me, making sure that I go into the homes of individuals who have lost loved ones, who have been deported or in what I call concentration camps, but not concentration camps, detention centers, to making sure they have groceries, making sure they have the lights, and we're out of harm? Okay. Making sure that they have just the means just to survive because the main breadwinner have been kidnapped. This is the United States of America. This is not a third world country we're living in. And my heart is breaking because this is happening. Not to mention adults, but children. And so I'm running for the State Board of Equalization as a constitutional officer of the state of California. This seat will represent all of the entire county of Los Angeles. I'm happy to have Lindsay Horvath's endorsement as well. My colleague Rick Sever, who represents this area, and many, many others. But this represents 88 cities in this county of Los Angeles. I'm running because I know this job. I chair right now Revenue Taxation Committee in the State Assembly, so I understand tax policies. I understand that this particular position, without this, understand what I'm saying, without the State Board of Equalization, we would not have the revenue to be able to give our Attorney General Rob Bonta the $25 million that he has right now to fight this Trump administration. Every time that he does something, we're able to have our Attorney General.
I think you got a loud voice and all.
Okay, let's do it.
Messed up.
Okay,
Sorry, yeah.
it's good. The Attorney General was able to take the $25 million that Al and myself and my colleagues were able to pass a motion in the state legislature to arm the Attorney General with the revenue and with the resources that he needs to file lawsuits against the Trump administration. Well, that money is generated from the State Board of Equalization because we are the taxing agency and we collect the taxes from all the businesses in the state of California. We collect taxes from the excise tax. We collect railroad tax. We collect taxes from the companies and the corporations in the state of California. And we take that money, and that money is generated, and we give that to the state of California. And without collecting those taxes, we would not be the fourth largest economy in the state of California. And so I want to make sure, as a board member, it's five board members, including the state controller, makes up the Board of Equalization. We want to make sure these big corporations pay their fair shares. In addition to that, when I was working as the chief of staff, we used to publish, watch this, we used to publish every corporation that was delinquent on their taxes on the website. So they took it down now. I want to put it back up because you deserve to know who is not paying their fair share and who is not paying their taxes. We want to embarrass them, and also we want to make sure they're not hiding their taxes in other states, because that's how they get away with it. And so as a board member, as a constitutional officer, we have certain powers. And when it comes down to illegal dispensaries, we have subpoena powers and we also have arrest powers. We don't use them because of what's happening right now. And so we want to make sure that illegal cannabis are out of businesses so that the legal cannabis can be able to thrive and grow in the state of California, because we've done some work in the state legislature to making sure that legal cannabis can thrive and grow. We've reduced the taxes just this year so they can at least make some money and pay their fair share in taxes. And so I'm running for the Board of Equalization, and I would certainly love to have your support doing so. So let me stop there and answer any questions you may have.
We're just about out of time for the questions, so thanks. I just say thanks for coming, and I'm sure if anyone has any questions, they'll find you.
I have some flyers for you. We have some flyers on the table as well. Thank you very much for your time. We'd love to have your support.
Thanks so much. Okay, so next up, we're introducing another race into the mix for our consideration, LA County Sheriff. So for the past 4 years, we've had Sheriff Robert Luna in office, who succeeded Alex Villanueva. And 4 years ago, we had a debate in this club on Zoom, and Sheriff Villanueva was there and Sheriff Luna was there. But the guy who walked out of that debate with our endorsement is here tonight, Eric Strong. We're glad to have him back.
Hello, hello. Where am I standing?
You're right around here.
I am right here. I move around a lot. So
Yeah, you're good. I'll make sure. Yeah, yeah.
So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the support and endorsement last year. I want to start off with a real quick analogy. I want you to imagine a person standing in front of a storefront with a trash can or a brick, maybe with a mask, and they throw that trash can, that brick through the glass window. They go in, they break out all the glass, they kick everything over, they steal a bunch of stuff, alarms are blaring, sirens are going off, and then they leave, creating a lot of damage, taking some valuable things. Now I want you to think about another scenario where a person comes through a back alley, up over the roof, quietly enters through an air vent, disables the alarm, goes in, steals some very valuable things, and goes out the same way, leaving little to no trace that they were there. But the damage is the same. While I am not calling these gentlemen burglars, I am saying that the first one that I gave you is Alex Villanueva. He was loud, disruptive, toxic. He kicked everything in and he tore everything up. The second one is Robert Luna. He's very quiet. Nobody really knows what's going on, but I don't want you to mistake quiet for success. As John mentioned, they had a town hall, or they had a sheriff's forum, and I walked away with the endorsement. I did very well in the primary, and after the primary, I supported Robert Luna. I endorsed him. And I guarantee you I would not be standing here today if the promises that he made and the things that he said he was going to do, he had accomplished them or had been moving forward to getting them accomplished. He ran on transparency, and right now he is suing the Civilian Oversight Commission himself to not release records. He ran on employee wellness. And unfortunately, we've had 13 suicides under his term. That represents 6% of the national suicide rate for law enforcement. One agency. He said he was going to help clean up the jails and he was going to rid the department of deputy gangs. They're still there. And just in September, the Attorney General announced the lawsuit against the Sheriff's Department and the sheriff for the inhumane conditions in the jails. People are being served moldy, rotten food. They're not getting their mental health treatment. They're not getting to their medical appointments. The jail is filthy. and he will tell you that it's an old building. If we cannot, as an organization, provide the employee wellness, the mental health services to our own employees, why would we think that he's going to give it to our community? Why would we think that he's going to do that for our jails? And I'm here to tell you that I've worked in this organization, I've worked in this profession for 32 years. It is not the four walls, the ceiling, or the floor that serves moldy food to people. That's a personnel issue. And that means it's a leadership issue. We're about 3,000 employees down within the Sheriff's Department, about 1,500 sworn and another 1,500 on the professional staff. We are spending right now $500 million, close to $500 million in overtime. Taxpayers' money. And it's not because we can't find people. Listen, people are leaving the Sheriff's Department. They're going to other organizations, going to other agencies. They're retiring early, and we're not bringing people in to come behind them. And I'm here to tell you, people will go and dig ditches with the right leadership. People will stand side by side to do the worst jobs that are out there because they need to be done with the right leadership. And I wouldn't be here right now today if it wasn't for failed leadership. So what you see and what you will have from me is a person that is transparent. The COC has subpoena power. There's been legislation that's been given to them. It's been passed already. Why are we continuing to fight it? Because he's wanting to support the deputy unions more than he wants to support the community. Employee wellness, mental health. I am working on programs and I'm working with collaborating with organizations that are going to bring true, relevant, sustainable recovery services, substance abuse recovery services, mental health and behavioral health services to our community. So I want to just talk about this for a minute because we talk about Santa Monica. Santa Monica has her own police department. How does what the Sheriff's Department do affect Santa Monica? Well, if you go south a couple of miles, you'll hit Marina Del Rey. You go north a few miles, you're in Malibu. You go east about 10 or 11 miles and you're West Hollywood. You get on the freeway, you're in CHP's area, right? So everything impacts everything. But here's what people need to realize is that even the Santa Monica Police Department, when they make arrests, when they come in contact with people dealing with mental health, when they come in contact with people that are unhoused, people that are suffering from substance abuse, and those people are taken into their custody, they wind up typically in the LA County jail system. Because the Sheriff's Department runs the courts. In terms of judicial security and the lockup, we also run the jails. So if they're not getting their services, if they're not getting the resources that they need in our jails, and they spend a few months in there, and then we shuffle them on out and send them right back to Santa Monica, what have we created? Just another revolving door. Another revolving door of recidivism. And we're just creating these problems over and over and over again for our communities, for our residents. What we need is leadership that's going to call out deputy gangs and say, yes, they exist. I'm the only one that's actually investigated them when I worked at Internal Affairs. The only one that's actually got deputy gang members terminated. We need people that are going to call it out, stand up against it. That has got to be the messaging, that it's not okay, it's not tolerated. It's not enough to just say, oh, well, I wrote a policy about it and we don't like it anymore. No, we have to stand up to it. We have to speak out about it. I also realize that it's going to take collaboration in order to get this right. The Sheriff's Department cannot do it by themselves. We're going to need to collaborate with all of our cities, all of the municipalities within LA County. We have some very big things coming up, right? We have the Olympics, as was already mentioned, the Super Bowl again. And I don't want people to be fooled that we need this consistent leadership in order to be prepared for these things, because what we don't need is consistent failed leadership. That's what we don't need. That's not going to help us. So I am more interested in hearing from you than me just sitting up here and telling you, but I have a specific set of plans that I'm working on and collaborating with organizations, and we're going to create this outcome-based diversion program where it's going to be sustainable, it's going to be relevant, and I just want to give a quick tidbit on what that really looks like. We spend about $130,000 to house a person in our LA County jail system for a year. We can contract with those same better, more responsible, more relevant, better trained mental health recovery type services for $73,000 to $75,000 a year. So you say, what does that mean? It means our average daily inmate count is about 14,000. Right now in the LA County jail system, we have the largest mental health hospital in the country, where 60 to 65% of our incarcerated folks are suffering from some type of mental health or substance abuse. Think about that. The largest mental health hospital in the country is inside our jail right here in LA County. I don't know about you, but I think there's something wrong with that. I think there's a big issue there. So at 14,000, if we can get 10% and decarcerate and put those 10%, I'm not talking about violent offenders, I'm talking about decarcerate and give outcome-based diversion. And I'm not good with math. I did it before. But 1,400, save $50,000 a person, comes out to somewhere around $75 million in savings. What does it also do? It frees up our deputies to handle the violent crimes that are going on in there. What do? We co-locate behavioral health specialists. We co-locate clinicians in our cars, and we have a program that is ready to go, ready to launch, where we can put one at every station on each shift. So right now we have a system of the Department of Mental Health that has the new response team, but they get off at 5 o'clock. So what are we supposed to do at 1 o'clock in the morning when somebody's in a crisis? Do we tell them, hey, I need you to put that on hold that for a second. We'll be back at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning? No, we can't do that. We have a MET team that services the whole county, which is regularly a 2, 3 hour, 4 hour delay if they can even get to where you are, depending on where you are. If you're in San Dimas on a MET call and somebody in Lomita needs your services, it's too long. It takes too much time. We're going to put them at every station on every shift. It's also going to free up deputy personnel to go and handle public safety matters, public safety issues that are real, that are occurring in real time. We have a plan for recruitment and hiring. We don't have to be 3,000 people down. It's intentional. It's because we're not hiring the people. And believe me, the word gets out there. People are leaving and going to other agencies. They're not applying for the sheriff's department because we're not recruiting in the areas that are most needed. We're also not making our hiring process very efficient. If it takes almost a year for somebody to get hired, they've been hired 2 times by other agencies by then. So we have a plan that's gonna make it more efficient to get our recruitment through and our hiring through, start filling those gaps. Our deputies right now are working a mandatory 8 to 12 shifts of overtime every month. I want you to think about that. You get 2 days off a week. There's 4 weeks in a month. You only get 8 days off. If you got to work 8 to 12 shifts of overtime, when are you getting your rest? When are you seeing your family? How many games, how many dance recitals are you missing? How many birthdays? What kind of stress is that putting on you and your family? And is that the way that we want our guardians, the people that we expect to protect us? Do we want them depleted mentally, physically, and emotionally? It's not the answer. So I'm telling you here that there's a lot of problems. I'm telling you here that we have solutions to fix them, and we have the people that are going to come in that we're going to collaborate with, that we are going to bring in relevant resources, relevant services, relevant solutions right away. And I'm going to stop there because I want to hear from you and see if there's any questions.
Okay, thanks. So, first of all, I think you did a really good job of summarizing what the issues are with the department. The question I think a lot of people will be wondering is, we heard Alex Villanueva 8 years ago say he was going to make the reforms, and we heard Robert Luna say that 4 years ago. So, what is it about you've explained some of the ideas and some of the solutions. What is it about your resume, your background, that we can trust, that we can put our trust in you to actually implement this after we've been sold?
Lied to.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, let's call it what it is. Yes. So, you all got a firsthand chance to see who Alex Villanueva was.
Yeah.
Right. I can tell you, I worked with the man 20 years prior. He is exactly who he was 20 years ago. It's interesting. I'm going to say this is that when he was put on the do not hire list, I don't know if you know this, but he went out and tried to sue and say that it caused him some mental distress, and he got his own psychological evaluation. Anybody hear about that? Yeah. Well, you heard about it. He went and got his own psychological evaluation, and they determined he was a psychopath. Right? They really did. He kind of shot himself in the foot by going that he was a narcissist. That he had an overwhelming sense of value, or all of these various things. So, Alex is who he is and who he was. I can say this, that after the primary, I want to go back to this. First of all, when we talk about character and values, I think it's important to talk about democratic values. And Robert Luna changed his party to get the Democratic support, because that's what he knew he needed to win. So I think when you really look at it, you have to look at what is his mindset, who is he, what does he represent as a being, for probably the majority of his adult life. And I sat with that man for hours. He actually courted me very heavily, to get my support after we did very well in the primary, and I listened to him. And I could tell you that I'm sorely, sorely disappointed. I could see now that it was never his intention to accomplish some of those things. But I want to go back to who I am. I was born and raised right here in Los Angeles County. Growing up, traversing through a lot of LAPD areas and the Sheriff's Department areas, I was stopped. I was profiled. I was roughed up by law enforcement. I know that it happens. You will never get me denying that these kind of things happen. I have family members that have suffered from mental health and addiction. I have family members that have been incarcerated. And when I say I have family members, I'm not talking about my cousin in Oklahoma or Louisiana that I see every third year at the family reunion. I'm talking about my cousins, my family members that I grew up with. So I've seen what they didn't get. I've seen how the recidivism impacts my family. I've worked just about every assignment that you can do in this law enforcement thing. I've worked 4 different agencies. I know the inner workings. I've worked gangs. I've been on a tactical team. I've been on a SWAT team. I've worked a task force. I've been a field training officer. I've been a force instructor. I've worked internal affairs. I've been the unit commander of our Audit and Accountability Bureau, our Advocacy Bureau. I've worked patrol, courts, and custody. I know and I see what's broken. And I think whenever I see people, I can relate to them because they are my family. We're all part of a community. I was talking with my wife earlier today. She just retired after 30 years in law enforcement. And we were talking about how this is a people issue. Law enforcement has got to be about life enforcement. And this is a people issue. It's not an us versus them. It's not about law enforcement versus community. And I will tell you, John, that's my belief. That's who I am. I bring the experience after 32 years. in between the time that, the last election and now, I've gone and gotten that executive experience that I'm missing and held a chief position. I finished my master's degree. And I've really been speaking with and collaborating with people to learn what I need to know and what I need to learn. And not only that, but to know that I can't do it by myself. I got to bring people smarter than me to the table. I got to bring the subject matter experts in their field, in their industry, collaborate with them to be successful. And I can just tell you, that's what's in my heart. That's what I've always done. I have stood up against the organization and I've stood up against the establishment my entire career. I just want to tell you a real quick story. 4 months into this profession, I was working at Compton and I was involved in a very, very big major shootout with a guy with an AK-47. I was with a training officer. I was on training. So 4 months in, I had a training officer and he told me to do something. I went and did it and I ended up getting in the shooting. So I come back to work and nobody got hit, thankfully, right? Not me, not the bad guy. We were both bad shots. We both missed, right? But I go back to work and two things happened. One is, if you know what a six-pack is, it's what the detectives bring and they put 6 pictures in and they want you to positively identify somebody that's in that six-pack. And this was nighttime. It was dark and there were shadows and all these kind of things. So anyway, detective comes to me and he says, hey, I want you to look at this six-pack. We need you to identify this person. And I look at it and I say, well, I can't positively identify him, but it looks like one of these two here. And the detective calls me. We go to this back room and he says, hey, Eric, I need you to positively identify this person. And he's tapping the picture. He says, I need you to positively identify the person so that we can go get him and pick him up. He tried to kill a police officer. We want to go get him. And I said, I can't. I said, it looks very much like him, but it could also be this guy. And the whole purpose of a six-pack is put people in there that kind of look alike. And I said, I can't. And he's telling me, he says, Eric, we need to do this. And I didn't because I couldn't. And I wasn't willing to lie on that report. Well, beyond that, I go into work after my 3 days off and I go see the shrink and the psychologist and I have my evaluation and I get called into the watch commander's office and a sergeant serves me with a disciplinary written reprimand. He says, I need you to sign this. And I read it and I said, this isn't accurate. You see what this was my FTO's version of what happened, but it was all to save him. Because remember, he told me to go do something which was really against safety, against tactics, against good tactics. And I said, I can't sign that. That's not accurate. He said, the watch commander says, who do you think we're going to believe? You're 4 months on. You're an at-will employee. You're on probation. You could be fired today, or a 10, 11-year veteran that's a field training officer. I said, sir, I get it. I understand you're probably going to believe that person, but I'm not going to sign that because it's not what happened. And he couldn't believe it. I can't tell you that on that day, at that moment, stepped on some tape. Yeah. I can't tell you that on that day, at that moment, that I was setting myself or trying to make this big stand or trying to be this person. I can tell you on that day, in that moment, I was just doing what my parents always taught me to do. Just stay true to who you are and what happens. But my point is, I have integrity. I've had it when my job was at risk. I had it when I could have just been fired on the spot. And I've done my best. I'm not perfect, but I've done my best to maintain through that my entire career to this very day. And I can just tell you that that's where my heart is.
Thank you. So, Mitchell, if you would have a question for Eric, you can grab him on the side. I guess we gotta get to the next part of the program. Sure. So thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. Okay, so folks, hey everybody on Zoom, I'm coming a little closer. We're gonna go to the
We're gonna come back to what we started last month with the resolution regarding turf. So for the folks who are on that committee, if you want to come up, and if you're on Zoom, if you're on that committee, maybe raise your digital hand or so everyone sees who you are for a second. So we want to thank everybody for their work on that. And now we're going to take we're going to consider come on up over here. You don't have to get on camera if you don't want, but they're over there. They're just imagine there's people over there on the side of their screen, everybody. Okay, so let me get this. Oh, that's not it. Let me get this up on Zoom for you guys. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, and I'll even make it a little bit bigger for you. This is the resolution as submitted by the committee and approved by the board. And I know that there's members of the club who've already reached out with some suggested changes. So we're going to hear about that first, and then we'll take it from there. So did you guys want to say, before we go to changes, do you guys want to talk at all about the process or what we're doing here?
I mean, I think, it was brought up before what we're doing, but I think that we all felt strongly that the Democratic Club should the Democratic Club should stand behind its values for the it's okay, I'll just project. I played soccer. I can scream across the whole field. We should stand up for our values in support of the health of our children and our community and for the environment, but also urge the city to make sure that we're doing everything to make sure that we have playable fields that are, organically and regeneratively managed so that we can have a resilient community going forward.
Anything else, Stephen? Okay.
So should I?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I move to pass the motion as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Lynn, we have a motion by Hannah and seconded by Matt, members of the committee, to support the resolution. And Nikki, do you want to come up and share your thoughts?
Okay.
We're here. I'll stop sharing for a second. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Nikki Kolhoff. I'm a resident of Sunset Park here in Santa Monica. I want to thank all the folks on the committee who invested so much time and effort to put together this resolution. I know how difficult it is to work, raise kids, and advocate for the greater good all at the same time, so they need to be commended for this effort. So we all know there is overwhelming evidence that forever chemicals are harmful to our kids and that plastic turf, it's so weird talking about that plastic turf is an unsustainable product that is terrible for our environment. We also know that those facts don't change based on the location of the field or who owns the land. So I am proposing some slight modifications to the resolution that expand it to apply to all public land in Santa Monica, not just land owned by the city. I think we can all agree that our kids should be safe and the environment should be protected on all public land. So while the advocacy for achieving this will take different forms depending on the location, I believe the Dem Club should provide broad support for banning plastic turf on public land on the same term set forth in the resolution, but all public land, without requiring these parents to come back here multiple times. Let's take a step forward to clearly and efficiently advocate for our kids and the environment and free these parents up to do more good work with the support of this club. So I move that the resolution be amended as shown in a red line somewhere.
Yeah, we'll pull it up.
To apply to all public land. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nikki. So
Jean Laurie, I second the motion. Thank you.
okay, thanks. So we don't, assuming it's friendly, which I believe it is, then we won't need a motion. It will just be adapted into the language. So Harry and Melanie and Matt, you can put your hands down just so we can address the question, because I know Chris has one. I'm going to pull up the amendment that Nikki sent me so we can take a look at that. And then at that point, I'm going to go to you, Chris.
There might be questions.
Okay, so just so everyone can see, the amendment that Nikki's proposing is the blue text is what goes in, the red text is what comes out. This is the marked up version. So we're changing the references to the city and city council and city owned into being about Santa Monica as a whole, public land. City of Santa Monica just changes to Santa Monica. These changes here, similar thought, it's all about collaborating with each other as opposed to specifically the council collaborating with the other entities. And then the one other change, which I think is what Chris is going to talk about, is changing sustainability rights ordinance to sustainability policies. So Chris, if you want to raise your point there, and then.
So I'm really grateful for the friendly amendment Nikki has offered, although I would not want us to eliminate. Could you put that back up so that I can just show what I hope we just do? I think it's really imperative that we maintain the sustainability rights ordinance in there so it could read with its groundbreaking sustainability policies, including its sustainability rights ordinance, et cetera, that is pivotal because that is a law. It's not just a set of ideas and policies. The sustainability rights ordinance leads our municipal code. So it really strengthens the resolution. So I don't want to lose that. So just add it to it, whichever way makes sense to you. You could either say sustainability rights ordinance and other sustainability policies, or sustainability policies including its
Including without
sustainability rights
limitation.
ordinance.
Okay, great. So that suggestion is friendly to Nikki, but the real question is if all the changes are friendly to the maker and seconder. So are you good with everything here? And Matt, are you good with all these?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I appreciate the
Okay.
collaboration.
Okay, great. So now let me see if I can get this into something really quick. Oh, that's not right. Okay. Okay, so the new version is, sorry, everybody, just trying to copy it over live here. I think I have it. Okay. Here it is. Yeah. Right, that's the issue is that okay, there it's in it's still the color thing for some reason.
It'll be lower.
Yeah, I'm just taking out this.
Oh, I sent you a flat.
I know. For some reason it came this way and I'm just trying to, so we want to do the sustainability policies, including
without limitation.
right.
Yeah, including the sustainability rights ordinance. That makes sense.
School district and SMC have their own policies too, so they. I need it generic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's for something about it, but it's okay. We will just this is good. So, okay. Sorry for the live edit. Okay, so now we're back
everybody.
on Zoom. Okay. Dion, I'm going to come to you in just a second here. So this is absolutely, yeah, definitely. So this is the new version now. If folks can accept that, we will clean up the punctuation and formatting like that, but that this is what it is. It's going to have all of Nikki's changes. Where is that?
Without limitation.
Right here?
Yeah.
Like that? Okay.
I'm not sure I understand that, including without limitation.
Because the school district and SMC also have sustainability policies, and so I had made it generic to include all of them, and so.
Right, but
it includes the city's policy and
including the sustainability,
us,
right.
SMC, and any other.
I think you're both basically saying the same thing.
yeah, we just don't want to lose the
Right.
heft of an actual law and statute. That's
Yep.
what I'm concerned about.
No, we don't. We just mean that law plus any other policy that's there.
That's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Everybody good with this version? If so, then we'll now go to the question. So Dion, you're first, and then Isabel will be after that.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I have to say, I'm supportive of natural grass. I think it's a great thing. I've been a parent in the district for 14 years and 11 years at Franklin. No longer there, but I had kids coming through there, so was there for 11 years. And one thing I have to say about the Franklin field is that for the vast majority of the school year, it was dirt, rocks, and little patches of grass. So I'm kind of curious if consideration was made at the time the resolution was put together to put an affirmative requirement. I mean, now I see it expanding to the district. I think that's what Nikki's change is to expand this to cover SMC and the district, public land, not just city land.
Yes.
I'm okay with that. I just feel that if we cannot put some kind of obligation on the district to actually maintain our fields, it actually becomes a bit of a liability. I mean, my kids were there. I mean, my kid had rocks thrown at him. It just wasn't safe. There's potholes. I know that I've actually tripped on their like rock, pothole, dirt, wannabe grass field. So again, completely supportive of natural grass. I just think that if you really want to get the district to make this be healthy, sustainable, great for all children, they have to maintain it. And I would strongly encourage maybe someone to consider adding in there a requirement that it's not just a plan to possibly maintain it, but maybe a plan to make sure that the grass is maintained, the fields are maintained, and it's safe for children to play on. That's been my personal experience. And then I guess the second question I had is, has this been discussed now that there's been this friendly amendment with the school district? And do we know whether they're on board and have the funds to maintain it? Because I remember when I was fighting for clean indoor air for schools, you guys reached out to the school district, and I got derailed for quite a long period of time. And then my resolution gutted. So I'm just kind of curious, like, where are they? I'd like to see that commitment, I think, to make sure that the fields are actually not just natural grass, but are usable.
Yeah, well, so let me just address the second part about the district involvement. So we reached out to them to give them a heads up like 6 months ago when Matt first raised this issue with the club. And Carrie shared his perspective on it. And then when we came back, time to actually do the resolution, we let the school board know what we were doing just to make sure they had the opportunity to respond. And long story short, they opted not to participate in the club process.
Okay, and just curious, because Kerry is kind of for people who aren't familiar, he's the chief operations officer. He's in charge of maintenance. And I think a lot of people have feelings about whether he does a good job with that or not. But I mean, where was he at on properly maintaining those fields? Because it's a problem. I love grass. I love natural grass. We just didn't really have a natural grass field. It was rocks and dirt and little patches for most of the year. Not always. When they first started, it's great. And then it doesn't take very long for it to get completely destroyed. And then the other thing that I've seen on social media, which is an interesting thought, which is, are we going to try to put any kind of limitations, or is the city willing to put some kind of limitations on how we lease out those fields, right? Because under the joint use agreements, I mean, this is all coming up because now we're bringing in SMMUSD. So under the joint use agreements, now we're going to have the city being able to lease out the school fields. And while I'm supportive of after school sports, right? Like we have that now in our middle schools. That's great. That's our students, SMMUSD students. And I'm also supportive of youth sports programs, but we have adults going on our field. So either we charge more and make them participate in the maintenance, or maybe we need to limit outside permits. I'm not sure if that's been thought of at all as well. Just my thoughts in general.
I can answer some of your questions, I think. So I think in terms of the degree to which the field has been maintained, and we live in the neighborhood, so we, even though my daughter's only in kindergarten, we were playing there frequently on the weekends before. So we're pretty familiar with the field. And we're pretty, and you know, there is a adult men's pickup game that's there every Sunday morning, taking up the whole field for at least an hour and a half, that's tearing the field apart every Sunday. So I think that the who gets to use the field conversation probably should be discussed. However, the plan for Franklin is going to be a totally new field. They're going to move the field. They're going to have to build it from scratch no matter what. And so this is a great opportunity to build a field that properly drains, because there's no reason that the water should be standing on the field like that if it had been constructed correctly in the first place. So that's one. They have a bond measure. They could spend way less money putting in a properly built grass field than a plastic field. So I don't think cost should be an issue there. Two, you can properly maintain grass fields, but I do understand the concern that the district may not want to do it or choose to do it, which I think is why, you know, again, in the motion, we are pushing for collaboration in the community between the different entities, because yeah, it's a change in the way they've been maintaining stuff. So I think information sharing is what we should be pressing for. So we do stress that maintenance and playability is important in the measure. So, or in the motion.
Okay, Isabel,
Yeah. About the amendment. So it originally said.
we'll restate the question on Zoom in a second. Sorry. Go ahead.
Land. It said
Yeah.
to change it to all public lands. First of all, I wouldn't know what lands would that be referring to. So what public lands are in Santa Monica that are not city owned? And my follow-up to that would be, it seems to me it would be state and federal lands, then would Santa Monica have any jurisdiction over that anyway?
Sure. So just to restate the question for Zoom, Isabel is asking about the difference between city-owned land and public land that's in Santa Monica and what that's inclusive of. And I think Nikki's about to explain.
Right. So within the boundaries of the city, we have this of our local agencies. We have the city, SMMUSD, and SMC, not state and federal. We just have other local jurisdictions. So if you, but not that are our fields.
Oh, but doesn't it say all public lands? It doesn't say.
Is there a synthetic turf installed on federal land in Santa Monica?
What does the amendment say about public land? Does it say just, you know?
Yeah, it's changing it to public land. Yeah.
Yes.
It says local public agency.
No, it's specifically referring to school district and college owned land that's not owned by the city, right?
It's local agency.
I guess, do you want to clarify if it's public land under the jurisdiction of local agencies?
That's
Is that
seems fair
what
to
you
me.
would be proposing to like clarify for them?
Yeah.
Right.
State and federal.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely not trying to do that. It's just the local because city's only part of it.
Okay.
Right. Let's see.
There's two
What was,
questions at
so
the
this is, okay, yeah, Craig.
As someone who is unfamiliar with this, is there a fact sheet or a study that brought out specifically what the harmful fact, what the assessment was and the harmfulness that this plays on? I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually last meeting, right, there was a presentation from an expert, so you can watch it, because it's recorded, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What, them plug?
John.
We had a meeting, you can go to the YouTube on our site. It has a full presentation, October 29th membership meeting.
Okay.
And it's gonna be, if you're watching on YouTube, it's the video right before this, but yeah.
But a number of like environmental nonprofits also have fact sheets, which I can share with you if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry. And then, sorry,
Would like to say, a few meetings ago, our Santa Monica Urban Forest Task Force passed a very similar resolution to this. And in our last meeting, the city gave a presentation about the Memorial Park field. And they said they've evaluated it all and they've come to the conclusion they're going to recommend natural grass.
Okay.
On all of Memorial Park fields too. So I urge you all to vote yes on this.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Carolyn Fowler?
Greetings.
want to commend you for getting in early on this. Definitely not the artificial turf. I don't live in Santa Monica, but I am government affairs for at LAUSD, and we are putting in fields. I go to the facilities meeting every month. Um, there are options that are great that are not grass as well, because there are many, depending on your schools, I don't know, there are many sports that have to be played typically on the same field, unfortunately. But I don't know if you want to lock yourself into just grass, because there are other, and that's something you might want to ask them, what have they explored? Uh, uh, I know you said you had the presentation. I'm sorry I didn't see it October 29th. But there are other things other than grass and artificial turf that work very well. And we're trying to put in several at different schools because of the Olympics coming, as well as they needed to get a new field. We've had many. You definitely don't want the turf. We could give you a long list of things. Why not on that for the students? Not only environment, but injuries, etc. Our magnet school on sports injury could give you a long list on that. But I just don't want you to lock yourself into grass only. And you should be asking them, what have they looked at that could still do the same thing, not have the injury, be sustainable, because that's what we've done. So there are other materials, and I just want you to recognize that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. Sam, yeah.
So we had somebody from Glendale give an oral presentation, and he suggested Coralia, if I'm not mistaken, it's a Japanese brown cover, very Japanese.
Carapia?
Carapia.
Yes. Carapia is technically not a grass. It's a succulent. It's really tiny. I don't think that it's recommended for athletics, because I don't think that it can stand up to that. But I do know that they have now spent the last 10 years engineering really, really drought tolerant grasses that use a fraction of the water. And I know actually over at the Brentwood Country Club, even they've been using regenerative land practices, and they've drastically reduced their water. So I think there's been a lot of technological advancements in the last 10 years on all of this stuff, since, turf kind of came to prominence.
Yeah, Sean.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay, the question's been called. So we're gonna put that up on.
I think she wanted the.
No, it's motion's been made and seconded.
This clarification here that public land in Santa Monica.
Yeah, and that's now changed to, this is now changed to locally owned public land in Santa Monica.
Okay.
Okay, so now when you guys get the ballot, the link to what we just were editing will be in the ballot, so you can take a look if you want to see the language. And just to clarify, if there's a stray comma or a typo, we're going to count that as passed if I have to adjust that tomorrow, but it will not be nothing substantive. Okay, so now we're going to get the ballot set up, and Sean and I are going to get that, so it'll come within a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm really pleased to welcome a guest to the club. Whenever we have somebody who's a member of the club who's running for office outside of the Santa Monica area to vote, we want to welcome them and let them have a stage to talk about their campaign. So our next district over in Los Angeles, Council District 11, currently represented by Tracy Park, and we have our progressive challenger, Faiza Malik, who's here to talk about her campaign. So Faiza.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name's Faiza, and first I just want to commend you all. It's 9:30 p.m. and you all are engaging in really important topics like AstroTurf at our schools. And I live in Venice, and but I'm also a mom. I have two little kids that go to school at PS1 in Santa Monica. And so, I was talking to John and others in the club about, even though Santa Monica is not in LA City. You know, when we talk about the West Side, we're talking about, I think we all view ourselves as like a collective West Side. And Santa Monica is connected to CD11 and it's connected to Culver City. And so I wanted to come and speak to you all as someone that also is part of the Santa Monica community. So, as I said, I'm Faiza Malik. I am a mom. I am a renter in Venice. I was born and raised here in Southern California. My parents immigrated to Los Angeles in the 1970s and lived around Hawthorne and Culver City in Westchester. They immigrated from India and Pakistan, and I grew up in Orange County. And I am also a housing lawyer. I've been a housing lawyer for the past 15 years. And that is why I'm running for office now. I am running because I want the West Side and the city of LA to be a place where our working families, everyday people can have a future. And I'm looking, I think we're all looking right now in this moment. That's why I think so many of you all are engaged in your Democratic Club at what's happening in our country and what's happening in our city and what's happening in Los Angeles, the crises that are before us, our climate crisis, income inequality. We have rising authoritarianism, a worsening housing and homelessness crisis, and it feels incredibly intractable. And it feels like we don't have leadership that's taking us beyond spinning wheels towards the future to fight for the things I think we all need. And that includes my council member Tracy Park. And she's someone that has been blocking many of the housing things that I've been fighting for as a housing lawyer. And so I'll give a little bit more background about my work. I'm currently a managing attorney for housing justice at Public Counsel. And I've been at Public Counsel for 7.5 years. And in that work, I do policy advocacy to address our housing crisis. I have been advocating for renter protections. I helped pass the strongest renter protections in the city of LA in 40 years in 2023. And today I was in City Hall fighting to lower the rent for Angelenos as well, who are struggling with the cost of housing. So I'm really proud of that work. I've been fighting for to defend and implement Measure ULA. I know you all have Measure GS in Santa Monica. And so we are fighting to do the same thing as raise revenues to build the housing we need. And I've been fighting to build affordable housing. Notably, I've been fighting to build the Venice Del affordable housing project in Venice. That Tracy Park has been blocking. And she's been blocking 120 units of affordable housing for low income, chronically homeless individuals. This project is on public land. It's been approved over many years. And to me, and even the Coastal Commission, which is impossible to approve for housing, said it is a jewel for development in the coastal zone. And so for me, as someone that's looking at our crises, I think that that is an unacceptable status quo for us to all be accepting in the city, in Los Angeles. When we know that we need to be building the affordable housing that our communities need, we know that we need to be fighting to keep people in their homes because that is directly correlated to our homelessness crisis. And so what I'm fighting for is a city where where there's adequate affordable housing for everybody, where our kids have access to parks and playgrounds and good transit options. And we have a transparent and accountable government. And we have a government that's protecting all of our residents, including our immigrant Angelenos and our most vulnerable populations. And so I'm happy to take some questions. I've been announcing some endorsements in recent days. I am very proud to have garnered the endorsement of Assemblymember Tina McKinner and State Senator Lola Smallwood Cuevas, who both represent parts of CD11. And I have the endorsement of SEIU 721, SEIU USWW, SEIU UHW, and I have also the endorsement of Unite Here, Local 11, our hotel workers. And I'm very proud of these endorsements to represent working people on the West Side who want to live here on the West Side, or some of them are driving like 2 hours to get here. And so we've raised also over $200,000 since we've launched in 6 months. And so I'm building on that. I'm building my coalition. I'm building on those wins. And I know you all can't endorse me, but I'm looking forward to seeing you out there and meeting you in person. And thank you all for your work.
Thank you so much, Faiza.
Thanks, Faiza.
Thank you.
Okay, so the vote is live right now. Everyone at home, on Zoom, here in person, there's still people here. I know you don't know, you might not believe me, but there are some people here. We have you. Did I get it? Did you get it? Did anybody get it?
No.
Get the link. Okay.
All right, we're checking. I'd like to also announce, so I work with Stonewall Democrats also. So tomorrow, or actually not tomorrow, on Saturday, on the November 15th, we have a major event, the Stonewall Honors, happening in West Hollywood at Beaches Tropicana. So anybody interested in coming, it'll be a great event. We're honoring Jeffrey Prang. We're honoring State Senator Sasha Renee Perez, My Friend's Place, a great organization that provides support to youth. And we're now live with our vote. So everyone vote. But also, if you're available on Saturday, come to this event. 6 to 9. Thanks.
I don't see anything to vote.
It came to my email like a minute ago. Refresh your
Okay,
email.
everybody, you should have the ballot now. I just got a chance to vote. If you did not RSVP for the meeting, then you didn't get a ballot. So if you're Mike Soloff, are you on the line?
I'm here.
Okay. So if anybody has did not get the ballot because they didn't RSVP for the meeting, can you let us know so that we can get you a ballot?
Yeah, I have a small box.
Okay, sorry for the dead air for a minute. We're just tabulating the votes, making sure everything went through. The deadline to vote is 9:45. There's nothing happening on the meeting, so there's no reason why you should delay beyond 9:37, but just open your email and vote. You have 8 minutes to go, and then
We're still straightening out at least one person's eligibility, so.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
I wish I knew there was great inside. I was thinking something. Do you like something? I mean, in beer. No, I don't want beer. I don't drink you coffee, sir. Make sure. Carry the box. So I took those all I already had one. Would you like to take some? You said you can eat things. Yeah, I don't want you, you know. I don't want you to put them on. No, we'll just have them at the next lady. Take it, that's enough. This is.
Yeah. Okay, this is the last call. 1 minute till voting time ends. Look in here. We have 51 ballots in so far. Anyone still waiting to vote? Now would be the time to do it. Just a reminder for everyone who's watching that the next membership meeting is January 28th. It'll be back in the Church in Ocean Park, and the headline guest there will be Katie Porter. We also have some other candidates running for superintendent, and also Sheriff Robert Luna, who will be there too. So starting to plan that, and I think Michelle also mentioned the upcoming holiday party on December 7th. So we'll see you there. Bring an unwrapped toy. You get a free drink from on the club in return for your unwrapped toy. And we partner with the Church in Ocean Park for that, actually. So it's a fun opportunity. Okay, we're a few seconds out. Waiting for the last few seconds here. Okay, it's officially 9:46. Let's see if it's closed. Okay. Okay, sharing the screen here. We have our results in. Hey, folks, we have our results in. And there we go. We have 45 votes for yes and 2 votes for no. So it passes overwhelmingly. And I will also add for the record, Jerry Rubin voted yes. He couldn't get his phone died, but he said to add him to the total. So we're going to add him in there. We're going to count that as 46 yes. Okay, so thanks everybody. Really appreciate everybody's work here. And For the membership meetings of the Santa Monica Democratic Club, that's a wrap for 2025. And we'll see you at the holiday party and then in January.
Thanks,
Thanks,
John.
John.
Good night,
everybody.
Great work. Fabulous.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah.
Happy holidays.
New Year,
Happy holidays.
Thanks,
See you at the
Christine.
party.
Okay.
Kwanzaa and Eid and everything.
Bye.